the other thing, the anxiety, I take antidepressant medication, and I wrote about it in my book, Thinking in Pictures. And even though this is over 25 years old, the information on the medication is still accurate. I just talked to a lady who's a brilliant mathematical scientist last night, and she's taking a low dose of Prozac, and she said it's making a huge difference. I've been on an old-fashioned tricyclic, and the mistake that's made with the antidepressants for anxiety is too high a dose. Oftentimes it's starter dose or less, and they increase the dose, and then you get agitation and insomnia. But I had horrible health problems all through my 20s. Colitis, everything would go through me. That's why I was eating yogurt and Jell-O. And I think a lot of this burnout is the fear system in the brain is ramped up, and it's a biological defect. And taking the medication, I said it's like adjusting the idle screw on an old-fashioned carburetor. I know nobody knows what that is now, but it's like my idle speed was running way too fast, and it damped it down. The other thing I have to do is a burst of hard exercise every night. The drug alone is not sufficient. So I'm still taking the drug. That's why I'm drinking a lot of water. And my colitis cleared up. And I want to add way too many drugs to giving out to little kids. It's disgusting, the amount of drugs given out to little kids. But I have a chapter in here called A Believer in Biochemistry. And I'd recommend, let's say, for young adults where they're totally anxious. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but I am going to tell you to read that chapter. And I'm not saying it just to sell a book. I want you to read how I wrote about it. And I wrote that over 25 years ago when I was kind of closer to the experience that I am now.
Yeah.
And I titled it Believer in Biochemistry. As I think some are going to need some help. I've also seen people get their anxiety under control. They go, oh, I don't need the drug anymore. And they go off it with very bad results. Very bad results. Going off of an antidepressant that's being used to control anxiety. No, I kind of look at it like a diabetic with insulin.
Which is, I have autism, but the autism isn't the thing that holds me back, I feel. It's how overwhelming the life is. And I often wonder, should I be promoting the use of medication, or should I wean myself off of it?
I think what I have found is that some people, I think, are going to need to take it for life. Now, I don't have any science on this. Us visual thinkers, we are the panic monsters.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that need to stay on it. The history lovers, they tend to be calmer. They may not need it. Some of the mathematicians may not need it. But us visual thinkers, no, I can remember a horrible thing I did when I was in my 20s. I was home for Christmas, and I can't believe it. I went into our parents' liquor cabinet, and I poured a glass of whiskey this big and drank it. And I thought, I'm going to become a drug addict. This is before I was on the meds.
Yeah.
And I've seen problems where with alcoholism, drug abuse, I don't touch any of this stuff. And I make sure when I travel that I have the medication in both bags. So if I lose one of my bags, I've got it. I've seen disastrous messes when visual thinkers have gone off the meds, like losing their house, for example. We won't go into any details because confidentiality. But there are certain individuals, I'm not going to say it's everybody, that if they don't go on the sertraline, that's similar to Prozac, and don't get your dose too high. Because if you start, let's say the doctor goes, let's raise the dose because the starter dose is lower than what the label recommends for depression. But you're not using it for depression. You are using it for anxiety.
Yeah, it's
and
probably quite high for that, isn't it?
I have talked to probably 100 parents where they said, oh, did great on a little bit of Prozac. They doubled the dose and he couldn't sleep and he was all agitated. No, they should have just cut the dose back. And that's all explained in that chapter. And the drugs haven't changed.
No, what you said about the addiction, I also quite heavily resonate with.
Now since they are controlled substances, that at least in the US, you have to get the doctor's actual prescription each month, which is a pain. You don't have to have that for something like Prozac. But some very talented people I worked with that were visual thinkers, there was some alcohol issues and I figure I'm on the meds for the rest of my life. And there's other people where they have some depression, maybe they can get off of it.